What is going on, you guys? Today I have another quick video review for you. This one is from Martel Metellus, and the title is What Being a Personal Trainer Taught Him About Women. Let's get into it.
I'll tell y'all, being a personal trainer at these luxury gyms, Equinox, Boston Sports Clubs in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Look up Wellesley, Massachusetts. Like I would say it's top two, top three, like wealthiest city in Boston. Like when I was a trainer at these places, especially when I was in college, because that was my first ever quote unquote occupation that I did, especially while I was in college, there were a lot of interactions that I would have with women, married women specifically, not single women. I did have some single women that I worked with. That's fine, but married women. I would have some interactions with them that would leave me scratching my head because I'm a very moral person. Obviously, don't shit where you eat, right? Like always, that was always my mindset. Never shit where you eat, and also never touch another man's wife, right? That's another thing. Consensually, of course. I know some people are gonna think like I'm saying something crazy, but I would have these crazy experiences where obviously I'm a trainer. I'm here to make money. I'm making money, and I'm working with these women, and they start to get really flirtatious, right? And you start to wonder because you know that they're married because they came with their husbands in that consultation. Their husbands were sitting in that consultation. Their husbands were egging them on to actually be trained by me, and they were all for it. And then once the husband left and they were just me and them in the gym, right? They would start to, say flirtatious things. They say, "Oh, you're so attractive. Like, oh, your muscles. I love how you look. Like, oh my God, like you're so amazing. I wish my husband was like that." And they would start to say things like this in the beginning, right? And I would work with these women for about 3 to 6 months, right? Nothing crazy. But as the weeks went on, the flirtations got more and more and more and more and more, right? To the point where it just got to a point where I'm like, "You're married." Like I wouldn't tell them this, but in my head I'm like, "You're married. Like how could you be this flirtatious? Like how could you be egging me on so much?" And it would get to a point, I would say typically around week 8, they would be like, "Hey, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm really attracted to you. Like I don't really do much when I'm at home. My husband's not there. He's always at work. You can come over," or something like that. Or like, "Hey, let's go do this. Let's go do that." And I would politely say no. I respectfully say no because obviously, I respect their husbands. I respect what they're doing. I respect the hustle that they're doing. But there's one thing I realized because these demographic of women were rich women, right? And these rich women were always left at home by themselves. They were always bored. So they always wanted to talk to a lot of these guys who were in these services industries, right? They would have their own personal masseuse who was a male. They would have their own trainer who was a male. They'd have their own gardener who was a male. They'd have all these male services around them, right? Clearly for a reason. It never was just that. Right? It never was just for just like their actual trade work that they did. But as I was talking to them more, I would try to understand what was going on at home because that would give me a good understanding of why they act the way that they act. Because I do believe that women who feel neglected or who feel like they're just sitting at home and just like their husband is out doing whatever he's doing, again, respectful because he's going out, he's going on business trips. Who knows what he's doing on these business trips, of course. But like he's bringing in money, right? She's living this comfortable lifestyle. Why would you talk to a 19-year-old personal trainer who's in college still? Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? So it always hit me in the back of my head, like, what's going on? Like, why are you choosing to talk to me versus the guy who's rich? Don't women like rich guys? Don't they only want money? And when I started to really analyze this, I noticed that the money was kind of like a safety net for them. They want the rich guys because the rich guys have the money that will give them the lifestyle that they want. But the fun comes in with the guy who may not be rich, but also has a certain personality and has a certain edge to him that they're super attracted to, more of like the high testosterone guy, right? That like they just have like this crazy fondness of, they fantasize over, a lot of women fantasize over the personal trainer. They fantasize over the masseuse that touches them a little bit in a certain way and they get excited and they want to do this and they want to do that. I'm not saying all women, but that happens consistently. And it got to a certain point where I was really just asking so many questions about their relationships, and they would open up. They would say a lot. They say, "Oh, well, he doesn't last very long. Like it's kind of boring. Like I've never orgasmed in my sex life at all." Like they would just like throw this shit out there, and they would bash the guy so much. And in my head, I'm like, "But he's a millionaire." Like, bro, when I tell you, Wellesley, Massachusetts, billionaires out there, right? There are. I remember when I was waiting tables.
So, this is why I say this all the time, but the focus on yourself, king thing is BS completely. Because they have this mindset of when I get the money, when I get XYZ, then I can attract them. You're leading the wrong way. You need to level yourself up in every area so that they get to the point where they're like, I would never want to disrespect my man because I don't want to risk losing them. And the thing is, in these circumstances, the women are hiding it because he's gone, because for whatever reason, right? He's crushing it financially, but there's a lot of other ways that he could be crushing it. And there's two things here, right? He needs to be that guy, and she also needs to be a better woman. So you need to learn to be that guy and filter out the wrong women so you don't end up with a girl like this. Because if you were truly leveled up fully, you'd be able to also filter out the wrong ones, put them in the bad apple basket, and figure out who would be a right fit for you long term, who wouldn't do stuff like this behind your back.
because I did a little bit of serving at the country club, the Wellesley Country Club. The CEO of Bank of America was there. I'll never forget that. I didn't even know who he was. I served him, right? And these are the types of guys that live there. Like all the NBA players live there, everything, right? And all their wives, I'm not saying his wife, or I'm not saying any NBA player's wife, but like a lot of these rich guys' wives would go to these trainers and they would flirt with them and they would do things with them. And it always puzzled me because I'm like, you have something safe at home. Why are you coming here and taking the risk with somebody? What if he finds out? Right. But then obviously, they have probably half of whatever the guy has and they feel like they can do whatever they want. And it was just crazy to experience this stuff. And they would always talk about how like he doesn't necessarily listen to me. He doesn't pay enough attention to me. I always feel like I'm alone. I'm with the kids. Like I just like want to have some fun. Right. And it's tough to hear this as a man because you're like, man, what if this shit happens to me? Which again, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to me. It can happen to you. It can happen to anybody. It doesn't fucking matter. The reality is it is a possibility. Right. But what I've also noticed is it's a possibility that can be reduced if you're a man who can basically do more, right? And again, this is going to piss off a lot of guys. They're like, why do I have to do more? I just don't want to date women at all. Go ahead. Don't do that, right? That's your prerogative. But I take that as a masculine man. I take that as a challenge. Like, how can I be somebody who's also fun, cool to talk to, like can actually give the woman a good experience while also getting the money as well?
That's a really good point too. Don't be a crybaby. That's basically, he said that in a nice way, right? Don't be a crybaby. You get to choose your heart. There's two paths, right? You get to choose the heart of being a complainer, a victim. Oh, why do I have to put all that work in? I'll just give up. You see how that sounds? Versus choosing the heart of becoming that guy. He's saying it right now, becoming that guy that they wouldn't dare do that with. And also you knowing how to find the right woman too. That's also a skill set. So he's talking about leveling up everything.
Right? It's good to have both. But a lot of these guys will be so focused on their careers, which again, respect to them because that's super important. But the women will be on the side just fucking around, right? Idle's mind is the devil's playground is what I learned. Because as they're doing these exercises, they're pointing their butt out a certain way. They want to do more squats. All of a sudden, they want you to get right behind them. They want you to do all these different things. And I just realized, man, I'm like, if you're a dude and you let your woman like go be with like a male trainer or like a male masseuse or any of these different services, you're kind of cooked at the end of the day, especially if you're a grinder. If you're somebody who's really working hard and building and you're not at home very often, the likelihood of something happening is a lot higher. And I didn't realize this until I went through that process. And once I started to understand, like, it's not about the money. It's not. It's about the fun. It's about the thrill. It's about the emotional roller coaster. A lot of these guys, when I would meet them, when they would come and sit down at like, we would do halfway point reviews and stuff like that. And like they'd want to renew and everything. They would be so excited that I'm working with them. They're like, man, you're doing so great. She looks so amazing, et cetera, right? And it's like, they just didn't understand what was going on behind the scenes. It like could not even be possible in their mind that their wife would be flirting with a 19-year-old personal trainer. Like what? Like I have the money. Of course she's attracted to me. It's like, no. And by the way, a lot of these guys were fat. Out of shape. I was like, man, I'll train both of you guys. I jokingly say this in the consultation. I'll be like, hey, I can train both of you guys. Actually, that'd be dope. And of course, the woman would be like, no, it's just for me. And the guy would be like, yeah, she can have that. I'm good. Now, what's crazy is the woman would want to get in better shape. The man would not. As she got in better shape, she would start to look in different directions, right? I would see the same woman looking at other trainers as well, not just me. I'm not saying that I'm like this Casanova or nothing like that. It was just the idea of being with somebody who was in shape, somebody who was young, somebody who looked adventurous, somebody who looked like they were just living life just on the edge. Like that's what they were looking for, And so it got to a certain point where I just realized it's not all that it seems to be. Like chasing money is great to be able to chase a fulfilled life when it comes to like your finances to make sure that you're not stressed all the time. But it gets to a certain point where all of your life as a man has to be balanced, right? And it's like you can have the greatest woman in the world, but if you neglect her completely, she's going to go awry. She's going to start doing other shit because they need attention.
You can make more money if your health is in order. Think about that, because there's a lot of guys in shitty shape, shitty health, and they're wealthy, but they don't have good health. So that's a really good point that he just made too.
It's normal for them to want attention. But it was just crazier to see these rich women who had the money, who wanted people who didn't have the money. All the trainers around me also were kind of similar to me financially. Like we weren't balling, probably making around 50K a year, 40K a year, doing the training stuff at the gym. You know how the gym works. Like you get paid probably 20%, if best, of what they're paying you per session, right? The going rate for those gyms that I was working at, the Equinox one in San Francisco, was $200 a session. Right? Crazy, $200 a session. The one in Wellesley in Boston, Massachusetts was around $90 a session, $90 to $100 a session. So these were like higher price things. And so we would get a small percentage of that. We'd only get 20%. And I just understood. I was like, man, it's not what I did. The whole like idea of women, like it just shattered my idea. Like it helped me understand that like you are not safe even with money. If you're one dimensional, if you only have money, you're not safe. You got to have multiple different attributes to you that wow the woman. You have to be in her fantasy consistently as a man. Like if you're jacked, you're in shape, and you're also making money, and you're also charismatic, and you're also super competent in other areas of life, she will always be attracted to you for the most part. And you have the freedom to be able to do things with her and have adventures with. Like a lot of these women would always tell me like, oh yeah, we go on vacation like once a year, you know, because he's always traveling for work and stuff like that. And I'm always like with the kids and all of that. And they would tell me everything about their relationships, everything about their lives.
And they're in their emotions, and they feel like emotionally neglected, right? So that's another big point here. And then something else just to think about, because there's levels to this, right? It's basically like if she wasn't going to the gym at all before, and then all of a sudden she's really interested in doing that, and she's doing it without you. Think about why. Think about why. It doesn't necessarily mean that she wants to leave you, but she may be getting ready. Like there's another guy she's interested in. She may be like prepping herself for potential more options, kind of like this guy said earlier. And think about these other things like how she dresses when she goes to the gym. I don't need to get too deep into that because you know exactly what I mean. Or how she dresses maybe if she goes out with her girlfriends. Like she doesn't dress up nice for you, but she does when she goes out on the ladies' nights, to the bar, the club, the girls' trips. Okay? Like side point there.
I feel so bad for these guys because maybe they knew, maybe they didn't know, maybe they just didn't give a fuck, honestly. Because I've also come across a lot of guys who are well off that don't give a fuck what their woman does because they're also doing some shit on the side and they're really just there to build a family, build a legacy, and just do whatever, right? This would typically happen, but it would be so interesting to understand how these women think and how they view their relationship and how they don't give a fuck about their relationship and how they see their relationship as almost a crutch to their life versus like something that is actually a benefit for them. I mean, they're benefiting with the money, they're benefiting with the guy who's ambitious, right? But they want the other things. They want the intangible thing or the tangible things that aren't necessarily as important as the money. And as I started to learn this, even when I was at Equinox, it was the same exact pattern, the same exact scenario. These rich women would come around, they would talk, they would over talk about their conversations with their husbands and their issues in the bedroom, their issues with his physical appearance, their issues with his over dedication to work. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, how ungrateful could you be? Like this guy that you're married to, this multimillionaire, is out here doing everything possible to keep your life beautiful. But you go to this personal trainer who possibly would financially ruin your life to get something, the 10% that you don't have. So it was an interesting dynamic where I realized that a lot of men really think that like, okay, I can give 90%. And even if I don't have the 10%, it's fine. But they don't tend to realize the 10% that they ignore is the 90% that the woman wants. It goes both ways with relationships that I've noticed. When I've trained these women, I finally realized this. I was like, a lot of men think like I'm giving 90% of what I think she wants. And I don't have that 10%. In the woman's mind, he's giving nothing because there's the 10% that she wants is the 90% that he gives. And the 90% that she wants is only actually 0% of what he gives. So there's like a misalignment in what's being given on both sides, right? That's why men cheat because they look for that 10% that they don't have in the household. That's why women cheat because they look for that 10% that they don't have that means more to them than the 90% that they're getting. So it was a very interesting dynamic. And luckily for me, man, like I believe in karma. So I never, ever shit where I eat, bro. Like never. And I would just come away with so much more wisdom and so much more understanding of like women who actually are in marriages with successful men, like how they truly think, how money is not everything. It is something. It is something that's very important. I'm not sitting here saying that you should not go get money and you should just get jacked and be broke and live whatever. Do both. Because you can do both. And that's what I would always look at their husbands and I'm like, bro, you could go to the gym. You're not traveling every single day. And even if you are traveling, there's a gym in that hotel. You can go train. You can take care of yourself. You don't have to look the way that you look. But they don't care because they're like money. Most of these guys were money hungry. To get to that level to where like these guys were making multi-million, they had like multi-millions of dollars in money that was coming into them every single year. They had these billion-dollar corporations, but they didn't give a fuck about their health because they just cared about the money. And I would see the relationship just like drift. And I would see the upcoming problems that would come in. A lot of these guys end up getting divorces because they would come back into the gym a year or two later and be like, yeah, things didn't work out, man. Like everything went bad. And they would literally just like go to the gym and start to train because they realized, damn, I need to get in shape. I didn't take care of my body and stuff like that. They would talk about the sex life that they had. They would say how it was piss poor. And it just taught me so much, man. But like I wanted to tell you guys this because I know a lot of us are here, like, you know, we're chasing the bag, we're chasing the money, we're chasing all these things. And we also do want to have women, right? We do. We are, you're attracted to women, right? It's okay to say that, fellas. It's okay to say you're attracted to women. And I know the key with that, to maintain the attraction, to maintain the pull, is to stay in shape, make money, and be very, very social with the woman, right? Be very involved as best as you can. Show some level of involvement. That's all of it. And I think a lot of guys don't necessarily do this, and they tend to fail with women a lot. That's why a lot of rich guys get divorces very, very, very quickly. Like the woman waits for a certain period of time until everything's on autopilot, and she collects her bag and she runs. And it's like, I see this shit happen over and over again. And as a young trainer, it blew my fucking mind. Because I'm like, if you have money, then the woman's gonna stay loyal. I was like, nah, it's not the case at all. You have to have more things. You have to have more things to offer. Is this fair? No. Right? Of course it's not fair, but life isn't fair. But at least when you understand these things, you can operate differently and you can focus on different areas of your life and do what I always say is become multidimensional. Because when you're multidimensional, how can she compare you to anybody at that point? Because you tick so many boxes and you tick the right boxes, right? You are in shape, so that way you're not a minute man, right? You're somebody who can take their clothes off in broad daylight and you're comfortable in your own skin. You are making the money, right? Because you have this career that you're doing or you have this business that you're running. You understand the concept of making money. You have the charisma. You can make her laugh. You can tell stories. You can captivate her imagination whenever you need to. You can be around. You have the freedom, right? A lot of these corporate guys are stuck. Golden handcuffs, right? Golden handcuffs. I remember my uncle. My uncle's probably the most successful person in my family. And he left his corporate job that was paying him multiple six figures a year to go build his own business because he wanted the freedom that came with that business. He was chasing freedom at that point. He was like, man, I got golden handcuffs. He told me, Martell, if he's the one that actually pushed me to go to Babson College, because I didn't want to go there. He was like, Martell, if you can do anything, be an entrepreneur, own your life. Yes, it will be a sacrifice in the beginning, but own your time. Because when you go into these corporations and you start working in these corporations, you will never have time for yourself. You'll never have time for your family. The job will be your entire life and you will literally feel like a slave and that paycheck won't mean anything. And that's what I saw with a lot of these guys that these rich women would be marrying, right? These rich guys that these women would be marrying. Let's keep it real, right? Because that's where they got the source of money. But it was just crazy to experience this stuff and like really see the dark mind of how women work when their man is not there. And it just taught me, man, it's just like, one, never ever say okay if your woman wants to hire a male trainer. You should be in the best shape of your life to where you're giving her nutritional advice, you're giving her training advice. You should be the go-to for that. She wants to get a masseuse, you learn how to give good massages so she doesn't need that shit. Everything, bro. And expect the same for her too, whatever your needs are, bro. Like if you're a hypersexual guy and you want to have sex all the time, like she should be catching up with that. And if she doesn't, then boom, now you got to go somewhere else, right? So it has to be give and take. But at the end of the day, it's like when you can master multiple different things, life becomes a lot easier and your relationships become a lot easier. And that's where a lot of men mess up. That's what I learned being a trainer. So
Really great video. And the key things there obviously are work on everything. The focus on your self king thing is crap because you want to do finances, your fitness, your mind, right? And also like that social dating element, because a lot of guys are putting that off and just building the business, right? So they're financially well off, but they don't have the other things, which is why they get into situations like this. So level everything up and become that guy or become him. It was like the joke for a while. And you won't have to deal with this situation. You can know how to pick the right ones. And just that last thing he just said was great too, like owning your time, which is why I make a bunch of videos on this channel about working to the point where you have a remote job or you become self-employed, start your own business, even if you're a one-man business, so you can live wherever you want in the world, generate income remotely. So you have the financial, time, and location freedom. And working on all these other things too, socially, with dating, so that you don't fall into this kind of trap. That's how you build the life that you really want. So thank you for watching. Go check out Martell Metellus. Good video, obviously. Subscribe over here. I'm looking to help more guys live life by design and be confident while you do it. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.